Boom, boom, how's it going? It is I again, TJ, and welcome to another video where we talk about anything and everything around property. But this time around, we are going to be talking specifically around how you can actually start buying your own block of flats. They've been labeled different things, right? And blocks of flats are one of those. Some people call them multilets. I don't know why they call them multilets, but let's stick to what we know. We know them as a block of flats. What is a block of flat? It is one building with multiple tenants, and within those multiple tenants, it can be a complex, it can be an estate, it can be anything. It doesn't really matter. But traditionally, we know these blocks of flats as a building that is a freestanding and it's got multiple units. They might come in 4, in 6, in 12, in 30, in 50. It doesn't matter. The principles are all the same. So let me say to you that I would never recommend for anyone to start off by buying a block of flat. Or should I say, I would never recommend for anyone to buy a multi-family building. What do I mean by multi-family building? If you've got one property and you got one tenant, it's good. It's extremely easy to manage because you're dealing with one property and you're dealing with one tenant. When you've got one property and you've got multiple tenants, the challenges that arises there are so many of them. I'm going to dive into some of them. But for the meantime, how do you actually start off by buying your first block of flats? That's what this is all about. Some of you have stayed, or you are staying actually at the moment in a complex. So if it is in a complex, well, good. But it's the same concept of buying into a block of flats. So let's just label this how to buy your first multi-family property. I like that. How to buy your first multi-family property. So it means that it is one property. It might be one big piece of land with multiple properties in it. Can be 2 beds, 1 bed, or 3 beds. It doesn't matter. But you are, or you will be, the landlord to that property. So how do you get started? Like I said before, I would recommend that the first thing that you need to do, at least you should have owned a property or multiple properties for at least around about a year to 2 years. Why do I say that? I stress that because for a lot of people, we want to jump in and buy the big blocks of flats because that's where the returns are. Yes, I agree. There's good money in blocks of flats. However, there's also huge problems in them. However, there's also the upside to it in terms of management. It's so easy to manage, even though the problems could be more. Why do I say that you need to have at least owned a property for a minimum of 2 years? I'm going to say a minimum of 2 years. The reason is that if you've got one property, one tenant, your challenges are ring-fenced to that one person. If you've got multiple tenants, if you've got one problem, let's just say plumbing, your challenges are times the number of tenants that you've got. And that can become problematic if you do not know how to manage tenants. The other thing that I want to stress out is that when you've got a property like this one, a block of flats, right? I think a lot of us, and I'm going to speak about myself here, I used to get scared actually thinking that when you're jumping into a property like this one, it's very difficult to buy. It's extremely easy. If it's sectionalized, much easier. You can go and take a normal bond. If it is not, there are different banks out there. You need to knock on a few doors for you to be able to actually see which bank is going to give you more back, or should I say more loan, so that you can buy this property. It's not true that the commercial banks are only going to give you 50%. There are some banks out there that can give you all the way to maybe even close to 100%. Your job is to knock on as many doors to present who you are and what you do. I've had to do this and I think it can be done. So how do you actually buy them? Well, the same way that you've been buying your 2-bed, 1-bath, the same way you've been buying your single family houses is the same way that you've been buying them. Buying the Multilet one. The only difference here is within how you are going to manage the problem. So the first big difference here is that where you were buying at 100,000, now you're buying in millions. Where you are buying, it's just about adding a zero onto that problem that you were having before. So remember, you own this building. So now that you're owning this building, how do you actually get to buy it? I think let's address that. You are going to assess the problem, the property, the way you assess all the other properties. It's in the same way. Do you go in every unit? Yes. Do you go and check the entire building? Yes. Do you go and bring in someone who's an expert to inspect the property? Yes. Do you do calculations? Yes. Do you go to bank and get some finance? Yes. I guess you get the drift, isn't it? Nothing changes. The amount of yeses on a single family is the same yeses that you're going to be needing on multifamilies, on the block of flats. But now that we do have this block of flats, the difference that I normally see is within the management. So it's easy to buy a block of flats, right? But your management is the one that's different. On a single family, potentially you don't need to find a caretaker. I always say that when you got a multi-family family property, it's of paramount importance, especially to me, because I've been in the game for a while now. I always want to have my own eyes and ears on the ground. What do I mean by that? I need to have my own person physically on the ground, so that if there is any challenges that are coming up, any maintenance that is needed, I get to know about it as fast as possible so that I can address it. Because bearing in mind, when you've got one person living on a property, when they call you, you can still be able to solve it. But when you got 45 people, when you got 10 people calling you, and why do I say 45? Let me tell you. When you've got a block of flats and there's around about 10 people staying on that property, right? Or should I say 10 units, it basically means you're looking after, at average, 30 people. Yes, I did say 30 people. What do I mean by that? There's a father, there's a mother, and then there's a child, potentially more than one. Now you see, and there's a helper. Oh, 4. So now all of a sudden, you got 40 people that you're looking after. If there's a problem and all of them are calling you at the same time and you've got no systems to manage, where are you going to get the systems to manage? Let's go back to when you were owning a single family. That's where you aim the craft of putting these systems in place. So don't go big before you have systems. I guess this video is about to tell you about you need to have systems in managing. Buying is an event. It starts and it finishes. Managing is a process. All processes needs to be managed. Now, if you don't know how to manage this, I always say don't do it yourself. Find a professional who is able to help you to do it. But it is extremely easy to actually buy your first block of flats. It's not on how you calculate it. It's in how you manage. That's where the difference is. So I'm trusting that this video has been of value to you. And if you've got any questions around this, drop them in the comments and let me know. I will definitely come back to you. But if you are in love with this type of content that we are giving out to you in this year of 2021, jump on and smash that button there on that says subscribe. And also share this content with others. Take the link and take it onto your page so that others can know what we are doing. My name is TJ. It's great hanging out with you. Taurai Jack is the name. I'll check you out on the next video.